guys, welcome and welcome back to my channel. If it's your first time here, hi, my name is Jada, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing you guys my experience thus far as a 26-year-old landlady that invested in Jamaica but doesn't actually live in Jamaica. So if it's your first time here, hi, I'm just going to take the next minute or so to just give you guys a background as to what my mental state was at the time of investing, what I've done thus far, and what the current reality of the property is, whether I do still own it, whether I don't, and what the plans for the future are like. So I haven't actually been sharing much about the property in the last 2 years as much as I'd hope, because things haven't been going to plans, and I am the type of person where I'm more often observant when things are going wrong, as opposed to being impulsive and possibly making the wrong decision out of urgency and not out of action and problem solving. So the property that we're speaking about is a 1-bedroom house that I obtained in 2019. It is a 1-bedroom house that I obtained in 2019. And just to give you guys the full history as to what's been happening with the property, at that point in time I was also in the process of going through a major life surgery, so I was quite stressed, but at the same time quite excited in just getting things done and just kind of having the ball rolling. I felt like I was really in my prime at the time. I was 22, 23 years old, so the typical Jordan year, and my prefrontal cortex would have developed at that point in time. So I was literally just like on the ball, on the hustle. And I bought the house with the hope of turning it into Airbnb, to be able to get the money from Airbnb to, one, pay the mortgage, as well as to do continuous renovation. One of the biggest expenses that I know of as a previous resident of Jamaica is the electricity bill. So the plan was to actually invest in solar panels, but that didn't quite go to plan because COVID-19 came shortly after I launched the Airbnb. So I had the Airbnb fully functioning and profitable for about 3 months, and then COVID hit and I had to shut down. To be completely honest, when I'm looking back at it now in hindsight, I had shut down, one, out of fear of the unknown, so not knowing if me taking in customers would also affect the residents living in the area and possibly causing another outbreak. An extreme fearful thought that I had at that point in time as to another reason as to why I had shut down the Airbnb and wasn't taking customers was that I was just so fearful of having to deal with a death of a potential customer or a potential co-host, just because we're still within the hospitality space. And at that point in time, Jamaica wasn't strict and they weren't on the red list as yet. So it was almost as if it was almost as if internationally we understood and we knew how serious the variant was, but in Jamaica it was still almost like a facade of everything is kind of okay, but it's not okay, because flights are still coming in, still going out, people are still getting sick. So the Airbnb started shutting down around that time, then hotels started shutting down and reducing their capacity, the airlines started to reduce their capacity, and then Jamaica actually started to have lockdown days, and then it was a lot more regulated. But by that point in time I had already had like 2 months of losses by the time everything started to get regulated. And then when it was regulated, I couldn't benefit from any of the financial aid because the property wasn't actually set up as a business at that point in time. It was just a residential home, or investment property. It wasn't registered as a business, it wasn't paying tax, so I couldn't benefit. So it was a real struggle, I can't lie. Like, looking back on the full 4-year journey, I would say year one was definitely the most difficult journey because of COVID-19, because I was new to Airbnb, new to landlord, new to just property and real estate as a whole. But to be completely honest, the more time went on and the more I got more confident in my role as now a landlady. In all honesty, I think that's quite a detailed breakdown as to the first 3 months of me owning the property. If it's your first time here, then that's essentially what happened within 2019 to 2020. Once it got to 2020, I had made up my mind that I definitely wanted to take on the landlord responsibility and to try that in the entrepreneurial space, because One, I didn't see any other young person doing it, and once I had done my research, I then made the decision to get rid of the furniture within the property space and actually get a temporary tenant. So the initial leasing that I did was for 6 months because it was a trial period. I was new to this. I didn't want to just go in. I didn't want to go into this space headstrong as I did with the Airbnb and then not be profitable, even be able to sustain the space. So I just wanted to start off with baby steps until I learned my way. My first ever tenant was one of my worst experience ever, and it was quite disheartening as someone that is new and young to the space as to how difficult it can be to actually get someone evicted from your space. Like, no one could have prepared me for that, do you know what I mean? And I'm not going to fault nor critique Jamaica's law system, but I just wish that there was a lot more resources for landlords to actually be able to manage the property. And this will actually lead me into my next point as to the current state of the property. But before we go into that, let me just finish the eviction point. So yeah, I had to go through an entire eviction process. If you guys would like to learn more about the eviction process as to how you go about evicting someone from your space in Jamaica or in the Caribbean, even though you're not physically there, then please leave it in the comment section below and I'll do a follow-up video. I could possibly do it in question and answer, or I could just do a process video where I just talk you through the process as to how I got the eviction process. So yeah, I had to go through eviction process in year one, and to be honest, that kind of just dents my entire life plan, because from when I was 18, 19 years old, I had this big ambition of wanting to invest in Jamaica every 2 to 3 years. So that means that from me get the first property at 23, me did already feel like semi I lose, because in my head me did supposed to buy my first property at 20. This is how hard I was on myself back then. So I bought the first property at 22, 23. So the next property was supposed to be bought at 25, which would have been last year. The next property at 28, and then the final one at 30. So I'm supposed to have 4 properties by 30. That was the goal that I set out for myself almost a decade ago. Me and you know said that is not the reality. Like, we're literally living through a living crisis. We're living in a recession. Things are not the same as it was pre-pandemic. So I've had to alter my entire life plan to adapt to the current economic and climate change that we're currently facing today, right? And that wasn't easy. I'm not going to come here and lie to you guys and say, yeah, they just sleep and wake up and say, yeah, scrap that. My ball, my beg, my plea, and then I come to the conclusion, I come to the decision. And then I move on, you know what I mean? Me and them type of person. Once me say, me done, I'm a brush off my hand, I'm done. Me done. You see me? I go move on and see what's next, the best in line. Me now go soak forever. I will soak for a certain point in time, but rain not go fall forever. Sun have to shine one day, right? So we'll get the ball rolling. So in 2020 through to 2021, I had long-term tenants because now I felt a lot more comfortable with short-term rentals, and I went through the eviction process and I got a new tenant. I changed my vetting process. It was no longer a first come first serve basis. It was thoroughly vetted. I checked the previous references of the tenants. I checked the landlord and the character reference. I did a whole 9 yards. And I hate the fact that I have become a landlord that asks for 1,001 documents, but I literally have to do that to protect myself and to protect my own financial obligations and responsibilities. So once I got into long-term tenancy, I did that through to 2021 up until today. And last year was the only year where I really pondered whether I should stop and go into Airbnb or stop and actually sell the property, because one of my biggest goal with this property was to actually have it for at least 5 years so that it could properly and appreciate to its maximum value. So this year 2024 now, Jesus, good to me. I don't know how, I honestly don't know how, but I still have the property. 5 years, bing bing bing, bing bing bing, anniversary. We have to keep a party, we have to celebrate. I still have the property 5 years in. It's definitely appreciated. It's exceeded all of my it's exceeded all of my expectations financially, and I am actually looking forward to selling. I haven't decided whether I'm going to sell or go back into Airbnb, but those are my two options at the moment. Long-term tenancy is a stable way of maintaining the property for now, but it doesn't give me room to do the renovations that I want to do. For example, like what I mentioned earlier, investing in solar panels and so forth. The current business module that I have now with long-term tenancy will not afford me to do all of the other business ideas that I have. But if I do sell the property, then it's almost like I'm starting over from a blank page. But at least this time I will have liquid capital, so I can make a bigger investment, or I can entirely just start looking at somewhere new. Because in the current state that the property is now, one of the biggest challenge that I have is security measures and constantly trying to stay on top of it. If you live in Jamaica, if you live in Jamaica, then you know how it go. You know how it go. The boy them a go boom the wall them. The boy them a go break in the car them. The boy them a go try to thief any little something with them can. So every year, without a doubt, I've had to invest in some form of new security measure, because I say invest in a security measure, I saw them try outsmart you, and I saw them come back again. So that's one thing that constantly keeps me up at night. And I can't disclose all of the security measures that I have now, because that may be a potential security breach for my current tenant. So if you guys are interested, then I could possibly put that in a separate video. But leave it in the comments. Leave it in the comments. I really want to hear you guys' thoughts on this. So other than security measures and the usual maintenance fee, natural disasters that happen in the Caribbean, nothing else has shocked me or that I've seen worth mentioning on the landlord journey right now. Like, all right, so just thinking about year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4 in its entirety, the biggest challenge other than security, the bills, because Jamaica has a monopoly system when it comes to electricity and water. So there's only one singular company that's involved, that controls the entire nation water supply and electricity supply. So you know how political and expensive that gets. Natural disaster happened. We had an earthquake, so that leaked out one of the socket them in the house. I had to replace a few appliances and equipment, the most expensive one being the refrigerator. And having been a landlady, having gone through the eviction process, having vetted and leased the tenants, and having lived the full cycle of a landlord and an Airbnb host, I know have help, and this is honestly one of the best decisions I've made in 2023, and that I will continue to prioritize in 2024, is having a property manager. And the one that I use is Bloom Property. I will have their details in the description box, and I'll also have it on the screen. I honestly can't recommend these people enough, and it took me a long, lengthy time to actually find a property manager that would service and look after my property the way I would, or even better than I would. And honestly, each time that I use the property manager on the Bloom team, she has constantly surpassed all of my expectations. And if it's one thing that I can advise a struggling, a new, or an aspiring landlord or Airbnb host, is to consult those that are experienced in the field. Speak to someone that's been a landlord for 20-30 years. Speak to someone that's been in the Airbnb space. Speak to a property manager that has studied the market and understand what the current market is. If you guys would like to learn more about the property management, please leave it in the comment section below. I can definitely do a dedicated video for you guys, and I can also list some of the services that I've used them for. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.